Previously on Fish Junk. I went on another shopping spree at the Ranging Guild, and with the help of my feathery friends, put another dent in the fletching grind. Revisited the guards just north of Ardy for a bunch of iron ore drops, and made it through the next portion of the smithing grind. I carried on farming, and made the momentous decision to go fish. That's right, having crossed off a few of my current chunk tasks, while working towards some of the more ridiculous grinds that my map has to offer, including 49 smithing, 75 fletching, 85 farming, 99 ranged, a curved bone, and the various items I can obtain from forestry events spawned by my main account, the allure of a bank proved too much to resist, and so I have also elected to unlock fishing by lamping the rest of my way to 25, to then use the bait obtained by killing farmers to catch pike until level 68, then gaining access to the fishing guild, triggering this chunk's second skill cape requirement, plus the big fish collection log slots, and 80 cooking. And with that, we begin. Welcome to the first of many, many days spent back in the wheat field. A familiar sight, of course, thanks to my previous magic and seed grinds, which brought me to a total of 20,680 farmers already on the loot tracker. Now, sadly, I don't have every single fishing bait from that grind safe in my inventory, as I did, in the early stages of the farm chunk, leave a few on the ground. Bit of a sore topic, but all the more motivation, I suppose, to make it to the guild's bank so that I can finally hoard every drop to my heart's content. While waiting for the last few XP randoms that I would need to hit the all-important level 25 fishing, I cracked on with my regular chores around the farm, hitting 63 cooking on my most recent haul of sweet corn. At this stage, with the fishing guild now a certainty within the account's future, I realised that there isn't a lot of point in still cooking every sweet corn this way, but it's become a bit of a habit, I guess. Back in the field, there's 73 hit points. That's the second skill about to pass the 1 mil XP mark. And a book of knowledge, just a few more to 25. Now, herbs-wise, there's quite a few different routes I could take. Originally, I was keeping only Ranars and Irrits in my inventory, while treating most of the higher tier ones as fodder for the compost bin, or simply dropping them across to the main account, since I am so very far from unlocking herb lore as a skill, and, until relatively recently, had no plans on unlocking a bank within this chunk either, thus making it highly impractical always to be waiting on Leo randoms or forestry leprechauns to deposit the next batch. With so many herb-dropping farmers ahead though, I've had to reconsider things a little. Last time, I described how uncomfortable I'd become leaving gem, rune and coal drops on the ground at Moss Giants, and to tell you the truth, I am now starting to feel the same way about all of those herbs. Exactly which ones I'll have space for I've not quite worked out yet, as that'll depend on many other factors, but for now at least, consider my mind changed. So I'll be looking, where possible, for ways to retain as many varieties as possible. Back to the present, there's a second book of knowledge for 24 fishing, followed by yet another. I do find it strange how I seem to get these little flurries of the same random event, sometimes 3 or even 4 times in quick succession. The shortbow's doing its thing too, there's level 71 ranged. At this early stage in the farmer grind, I did plan to mix things up every now and then with the odd trip to the Moss Giants to help maintain my supply of herb seeds. And so, having again run out of Ranars, off I trudged. But, as if to remind me once again why I swore off these things until I had a bank, I soon received Longbones number 3, and 4 to be buried. While waiting for the herbs to grow, I hit another little milestone, 750 bait in the inventory, and I kept working on my sweet corn as well, for level 64 cooking. Back at the Mossies though, it was finally the moment we'd all been waiting for. With this lamp, say hello to
Level up completed.
level 25 fishing, and pike. To make it official, let's update the chunk picker. And with a shiny championship winning rod in hand, it is finally time for Fish Chunk to catch fish. Womp womp. After that gentle bit of trolling from Jagex though, we're off, for a total of 2 fish until my inventory's full. As if that weren't masochistic enough, I then thought I'd try seeing just how bad it would be cooking every pike on a fire as well. And as it turns out, the answer is pretty bloody awful, so I ditched that idea before even reaching the first level. Speaking of which, there's 26, 27, 28, 29, and 30 for salmon. If only Grandpa Jack sold fly fishing rods as well, then the next chapter of the account would be a whole lot simpler. With the XP gaps between levels still being quite small, and the supply of bait plentiful for the time being though, I'm not worrying about that just yet. And so it's onwards to 35. Now, having thought about the road ahead, I've realised that this first stint at the river will, in all likelihood, end up being the single longest stretch of fishing during the entire grind. Since experience lamps and books of knowledge calculate the XP reward based on your current level in the chosen skill, and for obvious reasons I will always want to be gaining the most fishing experience possible from every single one, there is no point in me saving up any more bait in my inventory than the next level's worth at any one time. And although, as the XP gaps start to get bigger, I will from level 65 onwards be needing more than 750 bait per level, in practice, my quick napkin maths from the end of last episode showed that I'd end up saving, at the very least, 33% of the bait needed for each level, thanks to those random event XP rewards. Meaning that even from 67 to 68, I'll only require a maximum of around 630 bait. In other words then, I want to savour this moment, as the next time I'll get to fish so much, I will be inside the guild itself, many months from now. Strangely enough, I even had some company for some of the grind. Not something I was expecting given how remote this spot is. I gained a few more feathers from another maze random, meaning, in a throwback to last episode, another trip to the ranging guild for yet more arrow shafts. And there's level 40. A short break at the allotment yields a Hespori seed. Haven't seen many of those for how much farming I do, the reason being that even when hitting the RNG for a seed during the last harvest of a crop, like sweet corn, it's only obtained if you have an empty inventory space, which on this account is very rarely the case. There's 41 fishing, 42, and the last one for now, 43. And there I am, out of bait. Remember what I said about inventory space? Well, yeah. As I struggle through my farming routine, it's got me thinking about other ways to eke out a few more empty spots. Those death runes, for instance, I can fire off at the moss giants using their air and earth rune drops, which slowly I begin to accumulate. Quite why I held onto the fishing rod through all of this, I'm not sure, since I can just buy it back for 5 GP every time I need one, but I will come to that realisation later on. At least I'm nearing the end of the sweet corn juggling saga though, because there's 65 cooking. And that means time for another fond farewell to Mr. Scarecrow. You may remember previously how I discovered that when dropped, a Scarecrow stands bolt upright wherever you leave it. Well, that means you can do this. As a chunk account, you have to make your own entertainment, okay? During all this, while replenishing my bait supplies, I received the first completable clue step of the grind. Having failed to finish one previously, back when I was exploiting maze randoms for elemental runes and thus couldn't juggle more than one step at a time, I'm really keen to get a few caskets completed on the account this time around. Having had 50 bait left over after reaching level 43, I wasn't left with that many to gather for the next one, and with the XP lamp from this beekeeper random factored in, it was already time to head back to the river for level 44 fishing. Operation Use Up Death Runes is progressing nicely too, but with the final drop of air runes I get yet another mossy key. Thinking back to that problem with the noted herbs as I go and stock up on more arrow tips, what I'm realising here is that any number of moss giant kills is too many when trying to save every inventory space I can for herbs from farmers. Between the runes, unique items, and seeds that the mossies drop, that's a fair few inventory spots that I could be allocating to noted herbs instead. And having already received well over 1,000 herb drops in total from my current tally of farmers, it just doesn't make sense to keep splitting my focus in this way. Once more then, with a load of items to offload in my inventory, I find myself waiting on a Leo random in order to execute the next step of my grand plan. For the time being though, I have some more ammo to fletch with these 4,000 steel arrow tips. There's 46 fletching, and 47. To keep better track of the bait, I'm also keeping note of both the total amount needed for each level and the number that I'll use after factoring in any experience from lamps and books of knowledge along the way. I will predictably plot all of this out on Excel at some stage to get a better estimate of the percentage that I'll save on the way to 68. But for now, just the simple act of updating this note for every useful random event gives a nice sense of continual progress along such a very, very long grind. There's more progress to show on the farming front as well, that's 68. Plus another lamp. And already things are looking very encouraging indeed for how much bait I'm going to save. To cut my ramblings short though, there's the long-awaited Leo, and to avoid any mistakes, I had all of this figured out well ahead of time. With the Mossies put on hold until I get into the guild, I have no need for high alks, so it's goodbye to nature runes. The Moss Giants are also my only source of lore runes, so those can go as well, along with Mossy Keys, Herb and Limpwort Seeds, plus all the noted and unnoted herbs to date. I must say, it is a very weird sight seeing this much inventory space after juggling items for so long. Just look at this, emptying the compost bin with 9 buckets at a time. And pickpocketing the Master Farmer is a whole lot smoother as well. At least until I fill the inventory with noted herbs, I guess. No time for that though. With this drop of bait, I've got enough for the next little getaway, so say hello again to the river, and level 45 fishing. I should really have learned by this point, but no sooner have I cleared up all the inventory space than a maze random messes it up again, with a whole load of death runes that I have no use for. But fortunately, it's Leo to the rescue. And here's another level I always enjoy seeing, 73 ranged, meaning we're about to pass the 1 meal experience mark in one more skill. And there we go. It's kind of a nostalgic feeling hitting this on every skill. I have a pretty distinct memory from the RS2 days of wanting to see that 1 meal experience mark in every skill down the high scores page for my old main account. And as I hit the magic number of bait for the next level, I'm reminded of why I started this account in the first place. Although I had generally tried to keep my skills quite balanced as a kid, there was one that always was my clear favourite above all the rest. Fishing. Like I said in episode 1 of the series, it was the fishing guild where I made most of my friends in-game, among the community of regulars there on World 71. I made enough money for the first Abyssal Whip, selling, what else but lobsters, and it was fishing that eventually became my very first 99, followed soon after by cooking. And so, with all that backstory, it just wouldn't be right to get anything other than fishing as the first 99 on this account either. It is Fish Chunk after all. Hence why I'm so determined on this rather absurd detour. Enough reminiscing though. To bring us back down to earth, there's level 46 fishing. As a short break in the monotony of the farmer grind, there next took place a series of events that I'll refer to as the Day of Many Interactions. It started off rather delightfully indeed, with the hugely generous and unexpected gift of 2 bonds from Kite Man, who tracked me down through the clan and paid a visit at the farm patch, which fueled the chunk account for another month of progress. Thank you so much. Then, having noticed that I'd soon have enough compost in the leprechaun to return to watermelons for super compost, I was stopped dead in my tracks by this headless abomination. Followed by another spooky visitor, who tried to fool me with these mystical tales of something called a fishing shop, where bait can be purchased with coins. Fortunately, I saw through his ruse though, and stuck to my guns with the farmers. Having planted those watermelons I mentioned, I came back to harvest them, only for some other kindly fellow to inform me of a skill named Slayer. Then Jagex took its turn poking fun at me. Here's a drop of the most annoying clue step I could receive, just a few paces outside my southern chunk border. But my complaints to RNGesus must have worked, because here is one that I can do, which, helpfully enough, I had colour-coded at some point in the past. Good idea, that. It's a touch underwhelming to earn it this way, but thanks to the light rework of Tutorial Island, I also received my first quest point on the account. You haven't seen a level in this skill for a while, but there's 71 thieving. And to date things a bit, this is where we received the first bit of the sailing pre-release. Now, if only I'd be able to smuggle a raft up here somehow and coast my way around the fence into the guild, that'd be quite something. Wishful thinking, I know. The next Leo gives me a chance to deposit some more death runes from another maze random, and clear up the herbs a bit. Plus, I took on board a tip from a few of you last time around, to colour code and label some ground tiles in his instance, corresponding to the different coffin colours, should I ever need a quick reminder. The lamp is gladly received as well. I'd mentioned earlier on creating a spreadsheet to track how much bait I was saving from each of these random events, so with a few levels worth of fishing now under my belt, it felt like the right time to draw one up. The sample size isn't huge, I know, but so far I'm on track to save something like 3,760 bait across the grind, or the equivalent of 96,000 farmers. Pretty significant then, turning this whole endeavour into something perhaps vaguely plausible. The combat tasks are beginning to seem more reasonable too. There's 74 hit points. And although I missed the level itself, 74 ranged. At this point though, I made a tragic realisation. As part of the sailing pre-release, Jagex had killed my namesake. The item Fish Chunks is no more. It's Long Newt to the rescue though, with typical ingenuity for some fish off-cut pineapple chunks. If you align them just right, it does kind of look like the right item name. And yes, you may consider all this a subtle plug for my spin-off series of main and UIM progress updates on the channel, Fish Offcuts, where you can rage at my frankly absurd spoon of the soup pet at level 2 sailing. Shameless self-promotion out the way, there's level 69 farming, and 47 fishing. Now, you may remember in the past that I'd occasionally sold buckets of compost to the farming shop as a substitute for any consistent kind of moneymaker on the account. And although I can now pickpocket guards at a half-decent rate, it's not as though I have anything else to do with all that excess compost. So, with the arrow costs mounting, it's time to pay another visit to the shop. For some reason, here's another pie dish I hung on to from the Sandwich Lady random that I still can't use, but one day perhaps I'll be glad for saving them. Followed by another spectacularly well-timed Leo random. And one more of those triggering Ardoin steps. But look, progress. With 58 prayer comes 87 combat and 900 total level. And soon after, 75 ranged. Now, like I mentioned in the previous two smithing-focused episodes, I'm in the process of slowly altering my approach to uploads, so that instead of aiming for a monthly schedule or anything like that, I'll produce content as and when there's a specific milestone that's worth sharing. So, as I work through my latest batch of fishing bait, and reach level 48, let's talk about those future milestones for the account. At the moment, most of my playtime is looking rather samey, I admit, especially without any drops from the Moss Giants and having paused on the Master Farmer as well. The problem with him being that, first, I don't have any space for the more valuable herb seeds that I can't yet plant, like lanterdimes, dwarf weeds, and of course toadstools. Plus, since the farmer doesn't drop grimy snapdragons, I'd also need another space for any of those that I grow and harvest with seeds that he drops. This short break from growing any herbs might seem a bit short-sighted of me, given the length of the farming grind ahead, but honestly it is quite nice to be able to focus on the bait drops and vegetable patches alone, without the constant interruption of pickpocketing trips for herb seeds. A decision to revisit perhaps once I can plant lanterdimes at 73 farming, so that there's one less seed to clog up the inventory. But either way, with 99 fishing and ranging still to go, plus a bunch of woodcutting for those forestry events, I'm not exactly short of things to keep me busy with while farming in the future. There will still be the odd thieving level here and there, as the guards do help quite a lot when needing to purchase arrow tips. This batch gets me to 35k GP. And with more compost sold, and some help from those little GP drops from the farmers, I'm up to 40k again by the time that I'm out of arrows. So, fletching levels too will break things up a bit. There's 48, and 49. Plus, with the help of one more lamp, I have enough bait for another fishing excursion. This time, level 49. To give you a sense of just how much has gone into this episode, there's farmer number 30,681 on the drop log. That's 10k added since the start of this episode. And with all those farmers comes a lot of ranged XP. Level 76. I haven't been slacking on the farming front either. At times I really doubted if I'd ever get this far with the account, but here we are. Level 70. All on a single allotment. And my OCD simply wouldn't allow me to end an episode at level 49 fishing, so I put in the hours and made just one more trip to the river. Now, with work having proved exceptionally busy since September, and these episodes becoming more involved to produce, I don't really know at what pace I will be progressing with the account, but it's a good sign to me, I guess, that having only spent a week or two messing around on sailing, I was really missing having this account as my sole focus on game. However long the next part of the grind takes, I will keep chipping away at it, and whenever I have enough content to stitch together a meaningful episode, you will get to see the fruits of my labours. To round things off then, I present Level 50 Fishing, via, give or take, 31,000 farmers. I hope it's not too early to wish you all a wonderful Christmas, and I look forward to updating you in the new year. Fish, Chunk, out.